Hi, hello.
Sorry, I was changing my name to presenter.
Oh, nice.
How are you?
Good.
Yeah.
I forgot
Uh,
that today's starting was at 1:40. So I was
yeah,
like,
it's all
1:35, where
fine.
is everybody? But everyone's fine.
Yeah, no, I was being good in the other one and I just told them it was a good job and I had to bounce but I mean for a vendor thing I'm kind of impressed honestly. So
Yeah, no, they were great.
it-
And
yeah,
we
I have
appreciate them.
I have feelings about Audiate, but I'm not sure what those feelings are. I think
Yeah,
they're
I think
mismarketing it.
I think there's similar feelings I have about tools like Adobe Podcast, where I don't like
Yeah.
that it's not teaching you how to use a DAW. I think ultimately
Yeah,
I have feelings about software dead ends pedagogically
yeah. Yeah.
and
Well,
I
and the thing is, like, they're talking to people who teach people how to look at waveforms.
yeah,
So that has never been a problem.
yeah,
But what I think they need to start hitting is if you have a hard of hearing student who needs to make a podcast, this is a game changer
yeah, yeah,
because they can't hear it, but this gives them the ability to do a podcast.
absolutely.
And so like they're
Absolutely.
just not advertising it right because they're trying to hit on this makes it easier and it's just like you're fixing something that's not a problem.
Right.
But you could be this could do something really cool and I just don't know what to I don't know there's something there, but like if somebody had brought this to me as like a multimedia assignment it'd be like keep going, just keep going, there's something there, keep going. But yeah, I don't know how I feel about you can AI generate all of your scripts. That's like
Yeah.
that's
I did
something I
a
think I want to get into, but
yeah, I did an AI
yeah.
workshop yesterday for the first time that was like, can we do quick collaborative storytelling together? And I
Mm.
had Chat GPT generate Mad Libs and then filled it
Nice.
out. And then they had to work as groups to generate images to tell that story in 3 to 5 images. And
Mhm.
it worked really well.
Yeah, nice.
But as someone who doesn't usually like Mad Libs as an activity, I was sort
Yeah.
of pleasantly surprised. Um,
Next semester, I've got some marketing students that they're going to bring in like a process and then so like how to make a peanut butter jelly sandwich, like something like that. And then we're gonna use Chat GPT to generate the text for 5 slides and then use Firefly to generate the images. So you
nice.
come in with a thing you've written and you're gonna make Chat GPT change it
Yeah,
because they're business students, so they need to know how to use it as a tool.
yeah.
I'll let you
So
know how it works.
yeah. Where's the you had people registered for this?
I
So
don't know.
we've got I got 12 in one room, 8 in another. You're definitely in the right space.
Yeah. We'll see. If no one comes, then I'm just gonna go take a nap and work on my slides for the presentation I'm doing with Sarah and Michael that I have not touched
Nice.
because there's only so much time in a day. And here we go.
I did,
Yeah.
yeah. It was
Yeah.
it's all been fine.
Yeah. But I am proud of myself because we have a poster.
Nice.
So, yeah. How many things do you have up, our person in charge of things?
Say what?
How many computers do you have going, man? That's
Three.
amazing.
Three. I thrive in this
Uh,
kind of environment. Well, I say
yeah,
we give
that's
it
right, because
I say we give it to
I'll give it
145. And then if
I'll give it till 150. Like, I
okay,
mean,
yeah.
things happen to people. Like this is what I scheduled to do right now. So I don't mind sitting here seeing if anybody shows up. And
Yeah. And is it a
if nobody
slide
shows
set?
up, nobody shows up. But
Is it a
no,
slide
it's a
set?
round
It's
table.
a
Why
round
would I
table.
do
Sorry.
why would I do a slide? Like everybody keeps talking about
Oh,
how
you
they
got
have
people.
slides, and I'm like, why? Hi, Jess. We're just waiting to see if anybody else drops in. Thanks for coming.
You're welcome.
How are you holding up, Jess?
I'm here.
Good job.
That's the best I can do is I'm here.
Good job. We're at that point of the semester where that is excellent. I mean, most times it's excellent anyway, but like definitely.
Especially right now, like it's just been a weird week. I've had a few professors within the past 2 weeks thought they had a class on a certain day show up, and I'm like, you're not supposed to come in until a few days later. And I'm like, please don't give me that heart attack.
Yeah, that happened last year. That Sarah was sick, and a professor walked in and said, we have a class with Sarah, and it was at like 5:30. And like, so I was already staying late, and I was just like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So we got somebody to come up and cover the desk, and I managed to kind of do a half-assed class. The date had changed, and Sarah had forgotten to switch it on the calendar. And then and since she'd forgotten to switch it on all of the calendars, she hadn't registered that she needed to email the professor. And so we just, fortunately, it's one of our nicest professors. So it was kind of like something that a sincere apology could take care of, but it was a rough night.
That sounds like it. At least in my cases, it's all been on the professor's end, because I've double checked before I even responded just to make sure I didn't forget something. But that still is the minor panic of, oh gosh, I have to pull something together really quickly.
Yeah. When I was talking to the students, I said, if you learned anything today, learn that if you're wondering what weird elective to take, improv skills.
Fake it till you make it.
Yeah. And everybody makes mistakes, and because I was like, I don't know who made this mistake, but here we are. So
okay. I don't know. Can I be right back? Because I'm apparently being called.
We're fine. Like, we're gonna wait. We're gonna hang out for a few minutes to see if anybody else drops in. Otherwise, it's just you and me, and maybe Keys having a conversation. So
cool.
No stress. One thing I'm really looking forward to is 8 hours in the car where no one's going to talk to me.
Nice.
Both Sarah and Michael are flying, and I'm just like, nope.
Oh, Christine's in yours. Christine's here.
Hi, Christine.
Hi.
How's it going?
It's going.
Yes, here we go. We're doing our best.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jess had to step out for a minute.
This is the whole conference in one frame.
Get a screenshot. I just updated my Camtasia so I can get a screenshot and use their new Rev thing, which I think is pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, we were talking. I'm not sure about the audiates. I'm not sure where that's going yet, but there's something there. I don't think it's what they think it is, but there's something there.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Just to let you know, I need to dash out at 2, and I'll be back
I'm
about
not
2:45.
stressing about anybody's schedule right now.
Okay, good.
I'm treating this as just kind of a chill situation. So mainly because I don't have slides, I don't have anything like that, but we have a shared notes document, which I am very grateful to Christine for putting together, because I was going to forget and then do it very quickly right now, but now it's already taken care of. And so rather than doing slides, because I think of this as a round table, and I think of round tables as discussions, I just have some questions that I wanted us to all kind of think about, because also, my name is Emily Thompson. I'm the director of the UTC Library Studio, and this year I'm the chair of our RTP committee, and this has made me think, and I only got tenure 3 years ago, but we have very small committees, but it made me think about, both as the chair of the RTP committee, what we should be conveying to those people in the process, and also remembering what was upsetting to me as someone who was going through it and trying to prevent that. So the story I've been telling people is the way it works here is you send in your dossier and then they send you an email that says what you're missing. And they sent me a list of 12 things, and 7 of them didn't exist due to changing policies as to whether or not provosts and chancellors were sending you letters every year. And they were going off an old list and nobody bothered to check. And it was kind of, it wasn't a great afternoon. Because there was moments of panic where it's just like, I do not have that letter from the provost. I don't know what to do because that provost didn't send me a letter. And this year, when we did that with the one person who's going up for tenure this year, it was my main triumph was being able to say, one of your documents is missing a signature. We reached out to admin and we have attached it here for you to rename and add to your dossier. And I was just like, that felt so good to be able to like not give him that piece of tracking down signatures stress that I'd had to deal with. And so, but trying to think about both sides. So I got tenure in 2021, and I would like, if you guys would like to introduce yourselves, because I'm not sure if you two know each other, and kind of where you are in the process and why you came to this particular session.
I can go first. I actually, ironically, my name's Jess. I am the Emerging Multimedia Technologies Librarian at the University of Delaware. I actually submitted up for rank and promotion, which is our tenure permanent track one. I'm currently an assistant librarian or associate assistant librarian, going up for senior assistant librarian or something weird like that. And so I've always struggled with it. I had to step away because one of my people who I wrote a letter just came downstairs to drop something off and was like, "Oh, are you here? I just want to let you know that we submitted the letter." So I'm currently in the process of getting it done. I hated the process. I waited till basically the final year to submit it because I was just so stressed out about it. I think last year I broke out in hives being just so stressed out about the entire thing. And so I came here trying to think of other ways to, potentially in the future, think of ways to boost it. I know I haven't been the best participant in planning on ACTAL stuff because I have been sitting in on some of the planning committee stuff for the conference. I unfortunately cannot make it next week. We're really short staffed and I had to stay behind. So I'm sad I'm not going to be down in, Virginia. But yeah, I'm looking for more ways to boost it. So hopefully I won't have to go through the panic of that next year. It wasn't even that I didn't have enough stuff. It's just oh God, I have to put this all together. And, you have to actually talk positively about yourself and how do I write this, and not sure how to do this because I'm still new I only graduated from library school like 4 years ago. So it's all new to me.
Right. Yeah. How about you, Christine?
Well, I have spent my whole career as a librarian at Michigan State University. I got my master's in 2007, and then I became a librarian. I was hired in as a librarian in 2008. Did reappointment 2011. Continuing appointment was 2014, and at that time I also got a promotion to librarian 2. And then in 2019 I submitted a dossier and applied for promotion to librarian 3 with continuing appointment. Not many of our librarians are librarian 3s because there's some pretty strict criteria that you have to meet. Like you have to be a continuously appointed librarian at least 5 years, and you have to have some like managerial supervisory type duties or more responsibilities, that kind of thing. So I submitted mine after 5 years in 2019, and I got promoted to librarian 3. So I am now a librarian 3. The there's a lot of pressure there. Yeah, and our former director kind of scared us, because he was like, don't wait to do your criterion 2, your scholarly activities or your professional service activities. Don't wait to do it, because, in 3 years, you got to submit that reappointment dossier and blah, blah, blah. And so it was like, hit the ground running kind of thing. And I'm not a hit the ground running kind of person. I am very thoughtful, and I plan things out, and I sometimes overanalyze things. But once I make a decision, I act on it. So there was a lot of pressure for the reappointment dossier. The continuing appointment dossier, I was kind of in a place where, like, I knew I was going to get it. I had good camaraderie with my colleagues. And it was just a matter of putting the thing together and, like Jess said, talking positively about myself, sharing the impact of my work, blah, blah, blah. So I wasn't too worried about it. It was just mostly just going through the motions of putting that thing together and submitting it.
And I think that that's something really important that you just said there, is that getting tenure or permanent appointment should not be a surprise. Just like not getting it should not be a surprise. So if you're at a healthy institution, that should be an ongoing conversation, because if it's a surprise going either way, wrong. Somebody's screwed up. Because if you're surprised you got tenure, then I have questions. But if you're surprised you don't get tenure, then really there should be some sort of lawsuit in there, because they should have told you along the way what you were doing, what you were not doing. So that you could fix it. And if they didn't, that's mean. Which is not to say this can't be a mean process, but it shouldn't be, because these are people that, in theory, if you get tenure or continuing appointment, you're working with these people for quite some time. So let's not be mean.
Well, on that note, right after I got continuing appointment, they changed the process, the review process. So we used to have, when I went through it, we had committees, groups of 3 or 4 people who would review your dossier and then recommend you or not recommend you and that kind of thing. But they changed the process because some people were surprised that they weren't getting through. So our director at the time was like, well, they need feedback. Well, they should be getting feedback from their supervisors along the way anyway. But no, they need feedback from everybody. So he made us he changed the process so that we have a day in September where all the librarians get together, and each reading committee presents about the candidate that they reviewed, and then we vote yes or no. It's awful. It's like a big popularity contest. It is so it's awful. It's
well,
awful.
And I'd love to tell you that that's weird, but it isn't.
I think it is.
Well, and the thing is, I would say that, so my first question I had up here is, what's the difference between tenure track and permanent appointment? And I think the vote is more common in the tenure process, because kind of like, so in library worlds, especially in academic libraries, you're either staff or faculty. And so staff rarely have to go through this sort of process. That's and I think at University of Delaware, you guys are like professional faculty or some sort of.
It's an equivalent,
yeah. So it's kind of, well, and like my joke that I work with Lane Wilkinson, and so my joke is that technically we're faculty, but I think we're just fancy staff. So
how it is at Michigan State too.
But
we're really just fancy staff.
The permanent appointment stuff is basically tenure, but it seems to be, that's where you see stuff like librarian 2, librarian 3, or and it's missing the element of academic freedom that comes with tenure. So I'm tenured because we are faculty. My sister works at University of Utah, but she's a book artist, but she's in the library. And so it's a perpetual little that she has, that my title is associate professor, but her title will be associate librarian. She hates it. I think it's hilarious. So, because she has an MFA, and so she's going to be an art professor, and she is, but at University of Utah, they do also have tenure. And so it's a linguistic problem, but and we can talk about external review. We'll talk about external reviewers in a minute, but it causes problems for us because our University of Tennessee, not UTC, University of Tennessee handbook states that you have to be reviewed by someone of a similar position and rank with tenure. And so that cuts out all of the people with permanent appointment or continued appointment because it's not tenure, even though it is. So I think the hope is that maybe we can get that altered slightly because it's dumb. And it's something that's changed fairly recently, because I know when my boss went up for tenure, he was allowed to use people with permanent appointment, but when I went up, I was not. And it's just like, this is stupid. But yeah, so that's kind of the difference between the two. But otherwise they're the same.
Yeah.
And I think that there's different levels of review, but like the voting reminds me of stuff that I hear about things happening in like the English department here, where because we had our writing center director is under the library, and she went up last year, and we have a mutual friend in the English department who knew I was like doing external reviewers because I asked for help to find people, and like the English professor was like freaking out that my colleague wasn't going to get tenure because the English department had been so mean to my friend. And I finally had to sit her down and be like, okay, listen, the English department has like 20 people. So if someone wants to get a stick up their ass, and I'm glad we're recording for that one. If someone gets to bug up their ass to be like, to make a point on someone they don't like, they're not going to cost them their job. Whereas the way that we're set up, because the library had to split into two different departments, that new handbook was a doozy. So we have two different departments. So the research and public services side only has like 5 people. So if somebody decides that they're irritated with someone and wants to make a point, they can really screw up their career, which helps prevent the popularity contest because it's not a snarky little ding. It has real consequences. And so I finally had to explain this to Jen. That's just like, one, nobody doesn't like our writer center director. She's liked just fine, but also nobody wants her to lose her job. So you can't play those nasty games. So yeah. The other thing that I found frustrating when I was on the other side, but like I told myself I wasn't going to be that person that was like, it's no big deal, don't worry. And then you end up on the other side and you realize it's no big deal, don't worry, because it feels so huge because you're reapplying for your job. But then when you see what the other side of it looks like, it was really kind of reassuring. But I started to understand why, because again, if you're working at a place where you know most of the people and they seem like good people and they seem to care about you, they don't want to fire you. Or they're not going to fire you to be vindictive. So hopefully you've had that ongoing conversation where someone has come in and said, hey, listen, you haven't done any publications or presentations, and that's a big part of your job. You really need to have some, or we won't be able to do this, because then at least they've been told. But if you don't get that conversation, then that's cruel. And
right. And then if you end up with several no votes, like I have a friend who I've worked with for a really long time, and she does great work and she's super smart, but she's one of these people that can be difficult to get along with. So she has, bristled some feathers or whatever. But so when she came up for continuing appointment, she got a lot of no votes, like a third of them were no votes.
Yeah,
and I know that is simply because they either had a negative interaction with her and they're holding a grudge, they never got over it, or they just don't like her.
Yeah, so
it's really unfortunate that they aren't objective, like they really put their personal feelings into it. I mean, I have voted yes for people who I genuinely don't like to work with. There's very few people that I don't like to work with, but but there have been some that have come up through the process, and I'm like, well, they do good work. Their work impacts the library. I don't really like working with the person, but that's not a reason to vote no. So
yeah, it's that collegiality loophole that you really hope that people aren't going to be nasty about. And our bylaws, I think is interesting, doesn't actually list collegiality. So like,
it doesn't.
no, it's not in there. It's
ours
like
is effective interactions with others.
Yeah, and like that comes down to like part of the librarianship, I think is where it falls under. But it's not our stuff has been reflects our culture of we try and hire people we're going to enjoy working with, and so therefore we don't have to do that when they go up for tenure. But we also do have to do we have to do post tenure review as well. So I'm sorry, Jess, at some places it doesn't end. It's awesome.
Right.
I think
or your annual review process too.
Yeah. Well, the annual review process is just like normal for jobs, but every 5 years we have to have another review to prove that we've actually been doing research, doing the tenured requirements of the job after we have tenure. We're not just like sitting in our office and refusing to hold office hours, which isn't like all faculty have to do it. It's not just us, but that's the tricky part. So I guess the next thing, so Jess, did you just go up for reappointment or did you go up for promotion?
For promotion.
Okay.
And so it's the first round of it.
I have to scoot out, so I'm gonna go. I gotta pick up my granddaughter, but I'll be back.
Cool. All right, I'll see you next week, Christine.
Okay, bye.
Yeah. So what is the progression for you? So is it promotion and then permanent status, or is it?
I think it's promotion. I think it's you get associate assistant, and then senior assistant, and then it's assistant. And I think you're permanent assistant.
Okay.
So it's like two kind of temporary and then an actual permanent.
Yeah, and this is going to depend on all of the other places, because I know like at my last job, which was for the SUNYs, I came in as a senior assistant because they stopped hiring assistants.
Yeah.
So I came in as a senior assistant, and then I would go for associate, and then you would go for full, but it was librarian, not professor. But yeah, it's interesting how like the permanent stuff can be separated from the promotion.
Yeah.
Which does have the advantage of promotions in theory come with more money. So if there's more promotions, then that will help you financially as you go along. Whereas we only get we get a 10% bump when you go to associate, which is at the same time you go for tenure.
Okay.
And then you get another 10% bump when you go for full. And then you, I guess, never need a raise again. I don't know. But
in this economy.
Yeah. But you usually go for promotion and tenure together, but in unusual circumstances, you can go for promotion before tenure. And I have seen people that like I know got tenure but didn't get promotion.
Okay.
And that is why my friend Jessica no longer works for the occupational therapy department, because they wanted her to have a PhD and she just has an OT doctorate.
Okay.
And
it's not what they need or wanted.
That seems like a waste of time for her to go get, because they didn't care if it was a PhD in OT. They just wanted a PhD. It's just like, well, anyway, so you lost a great person there. Good job. Because it's silly in all of the departments.
Yeah.
So I guess as someone who hasn't gone for it yet, what are the things that you get most concerned about? Because you said that you found it really stressful, which caused you to maybe procrastinate. So
I think just not knowing the process.
People could ask.
Yeah, just not. Right, so I mean,
we
have a very robust process, and I guess just my brain doesn't like to work with it, and just the fear of how formal and sanitized it has to be when like I'm not, that is the biggest stressor. But like we have like a 45 page document that goes like over everything you needed. The first bump for the first to go up for this time, the primary thing that they focus on, the criteria they focus on, is criteria 1, which is job performance. So are you doing what is in your job description that way? So don't really think that's gonna be an issue because I'm doing my job. No one said anything otherwise. I'm here, I'm doing it, I'm working with faculty, I'm working with students. there's that. We do also every year they do put on a hour-long like discussion about what the process is like, and people who've gone up for it previously speak about the whole thing. So like there is a nice amount of people helping, and that you can also get a mentor. And so after freaking out in 2022, I basically got a new mentor that started after that, after I missed that deadline because of that. And we basically planned out a year to get everything prepared for going up in this year. And so I was able to get it done on time and all that. But I needed more structure for me, at least, I needed to have this done at this time, even if it was just a word vomit, and then trying to figure out strategies of how to write the narrative, because like I looked at other people's, and again, the formality, and it's weird writing. Or just for my brain, it's a weird writing style that is just different. And then,
so I don't like writing. And so when I had to do my narrative, I also, like, this is my little point of honor. I had to go up during the pandemic, so I was working from home.
Yeah.
And so like, not only that, but I didn't like what was happening. It was stressful, and my cat kept bothering me. But the thing that helped me the most was I went to our writing center. So writing center, I'm typing in the notes.
No, you're good. I see the notes.
Yeah. For everyone. And so one of the things that I like about my colleague in the writing center, her name's Beth, is that she keeps emphasizing that the writing and communication center is for everybody, faculty, staff, and students. And so I made an appointment with Beth and sent her it ahead of time. And then she had a writing center appointment with me where, like, I sent her the thing and said, I'm not good at transitions or conclusions. And she sent it back and went, you do struggle with those, and here are some suggestions. And just but the thing is, when you're going through this, that wanting someone else to look at it situation, but it's hard to ask your colleagues, because since they're judging you, they need to have that separation.
Well, that's the different thing with us. We don't have, not all my colleagues will be judging me. We have a committee that will be judging me.
That's nice.
So
yeah,
so the person who was my mentor wasn't on the committee. They already went through it. They didn't have to worry about it. So I had her look over it a bunch of times. One of the other struggles, just because of timing of when I've been here at Delaware, I moved here right before the pandemic. Moved halfway across the country for my first job right before the pandemic. Had 4 bosses in the 4 years I've been here.
Great.
2 of them were temporary, just passing me around until I got a permanent position. And then my boss currently has absolutely no idea what the process is, because he came in, so never had to do that. So it's not like I had a mentor boss that went through it. And just because of after the pandemic, I'm the only librarian down here now left in the department. There's tons of them scattered about.
Yeah,
but like Amanda
will come back. Amanda,
no, I'm not saying she's not coming back. She's in a different. She's part of the SMBC, but she's not part of the SMBC. She moved up to what the I still call them reference, but she's still here.
Okay.
She's still here, and I know she'll be back from maternity leave, and we do work really closely together. But she's not like physically down here with me all the time. And honestly, she would have been perfect to look at it too. I think she wrote me a letter. I don't know if she got it in time, because I wasn't going to put pressure on her for that. But
But I will tell you, like, check with the writing center, because they can help with that dumb stuff. It's because, like, if you may be more into writing than I am, but I can write. I write pretty well. I don't like it.
I've used some online tools to help me narrow down things and check grammar. So
but the writing center is also, like, because their goal is to help you be a better writer, so they can help you try and actually say the thing that you can't quite figure out how to say. But
I think the other problem is I wanted to write. I know for one of the sections I just wrote like a page and a half of something, and it needed to be like 3 paragraphs. And so just getting it concise, because I wasn't sure like how much detail you want, because you don't want to like undersell what you did, but then you don't want to like put so much detail into something. So knowing the right balance between that, and then just choosing what to include and what not to include, kind of. So choosing what's valuable and what's not.
I'm terrible, but like, I'm also team include all the things, because if you're going to make me do this, I'm going to give you everything. Because that's my little combative compliance that I get into. But I know your group. Go for that. The other thing, the best piece of advice that I got was from my mentor when I started at my first job, was and that was frustrating because like they assigned you a mentor, but like then she couldn't look at my stuff because she was on the committee.
Yeah.
And literally there were like 3 other people that could have assigned as a mentor rather than feeling hung out to dry. Lovely woman. And both of the places I've been at, my mentors have retired after a year. And so like they weren't there anymore.
Yeah.
But she did have a really good suggestion, which was to start an add a girl or add a person, however you'd like to identify. I don't know why I'm talking to more than one person in this. I'm doing my general thing for like a
I mean,
class
it's
of 20.
recording.
Yeah, there you go. For the people in the recording, add a whatever gender you want to, or if you want to be like a dog, I don't care. But you start that folder in your email. And so like there you go. So I have an add a girl folder with the dates. I have add a girl 2023 email folder, and I have one for every year. And anytime somebody sends me a nice email, I save it there. So that when I'm then looking for like proof, I can pull it out by year rather than having to go find it because I filed it away at that time.
So I did something similar to that, and I created a couple different folders. I had like a year add a girl or add a boy or add a good job folder.
Yeah.
I had the benefits and personal, which kind of just turned into the R&P stuff. What also I did to help organize everything is I have a weird memory, and so I basically just printed out my calendar, my Google calendar, because I usually try and do my best to keep that up to date, and then I circled what events were, because I basically kept very minimum notes, but mostly the instructor's name or the person's name. So then I could go cross-reference that with my emails, because Google has a great search function in their email, and then was able to read up on emails that way to then put more additional information in case it wasn't just a thank you for doing this. It was like documents or stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a really good tip. Because it all is in how you think, right?
Yeah.
Like I think you're like, you say print out the calendar, and I'm like, I could have printed out the calendar and circled things instead of meticulously going through it at the end of every year and pulling it out that way. So it's a good idea. But
like
I also
I'm the weirdo that likes to like paper and
oh no, I do paper too. It's just like I meticulously go through my calendar. But I'm going to show you my file structure. If I can find the screen sharing thing. So this is my Google folder. And so again, everything's by year.
Okay.
And this is my EDO, CVs, and other documentation as I reapply for my job folder. But every year I would go in and just kind of like, these are my main documents. So it's finding, because like I said, there were those documents that they asked for, and like 7 of them didn't exist. So this is year 3. So it also has all of my scanned material. So this is because we only really get stuff checked at year 3, which is annoying. And I think dangerous because, but I've got all of this by date.
The one good thing is you come in knowing you have to do that. So they prepared you, so you don't have to wait till the last minute.
And generally, if you're going to lose your job here, you will lose it in year 3, because after year 3, it becomes more expensive to replace you than to retain you. But before year 3, it's cheaper to get rid of you. So if you haven't screwed things up by year 3, you're probably doing okay. This is my other folder, which is scholarly and creative activities. And this is where I keep all of the stuff I've done for that year. So that when I'm going through to pull it out. So like I went to, this is an article for computers and libraries, and it's got all of my images, but it's also got, it's got the article. And does it have a picture of it? No, it does not, but it's almost good. But like in theory, this is where when I need to go pull out slides, I'll have those here already so that I can put those wherever they need to go and put them into other things. And then for physical documents, I have a drawer. This is again the tip from my mentor at Oswego. You have a drawer, and anytime you have a physical conference catalog, which these are rare these days, physical conference catalog, a thank you note that someone drops off that's a physical item, or anything that like you might think you want to use, it goes in the drawer. And that way it's, it's not well filed, but at least you know what drawer it's in, so you can go back and find it later. Because it's all really a file management endeavor, because if you're doing the work, you're doing the work. And so all you need is that evidence that you did it. So keeping track of where you kept it is the trick. So using things like printing out your calendar and drawing circles is excellent. Because I get into like file management. I'm super nerdy about making sure everything's in the right place, because we all have our rabbit holes, right?
Yep.
And if mine happens to be file management, then sure. Mostly because I hate it so much that I have to do it so that I'm not mad at myself later.
I think my file management on these computers would be a lot better if I wasn't on a Mac. I'm very particular on a PC, but on a Mac it's just chaos.
Yeah, you can do the same thing on the Mac if you
I
want
know,
to,
I just
but you have
I
to
started
it.
as chaos and it's gonna be chaos until
Yeah.
I get a new machine.
And that's the thing. I have a meeting the week after ACTAL with a history professor who was complaining to a mutual friend art professor about not knowing where all of her stuff was for her book. And the art professor was just like, maybe make an appointment with Emily. She can probably teach you some things. So, but we all have our rabbit holes. But yeah,
Yes.
for me, a lot of it is just the file management, right?
Yeah.
So
I think if you're looking at it as well, it might be getting a glimpse on the other side as you're going up. If you're going up in promotion, you don't get to see a glimpse onto the other side until after the process is done. So maybe like a glimpse onto the other side might be easier and relieve some of the pressure.
At my last job, that was one of the things, like, because there was a committee, right? And the rules for the committee is you had to have someone at full, someone at associate, and someone at assistant. And so non-tenured people had to be on the committee, and they always try and make you do it like your second year. And it was one of those things where it's just like, this seems like so much extra work and I don't want to, but it was still so valuable because we actually had someone that like, there was kind of an effort because like some people thought he needed to go and other people thought he was going to retire in 7 years, so we might as well keep him. Kind of like there was the whole controversy thing happening, and I had to / got to be on that committee to see how it worked, where like if somebody wrote a letter saying they didn't want someone to get tenure, and then you would bring them in for like a conversation, and it was eye-opening, but at least
you got to see it.
At least I knew what happened if you pissed off the wrong people. But also I knew like what they're looking for and why it's not that big of a deal. So yeah.
Yeah.
I like your good job folder better than add a person folder.
It's more neutral.
I'm in that position where like the kids today have it figured out and I just keep getting confused because I want to be supportive, but I don't actually live in that world. So I keep doing it slightly wrong.
I just stick with neutral things. Just
I'm
neutral.
trying too hard and it's not working. And so if I would stop trying so hard, it would be better because it's not that big of a deal. But yeah.
So what is the WordPress thing?
Oh, so we have to have external reviewers. And so the rules are at UTC, they must have tenure and similar rank and position. And so that is a list of the various places that have academic librarian status. And so when you're looking for external reviewers, this is helpful to kind of to show you where to go. So for us, since they have to have tenure and full faculty status, this gives us a list of institutions so that rather than trying to just go through all the colleges in America, we can start there and be like, okay, so I'm going to see if there's anybody similar at App State who has something similar to me. So we're not wasting our time with people who don't
Might not be
qualify.
relevant. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not, I don't want to say that they're not relevant, but it's like, they're
Might not be
going to get
applicable.
dinged whenever the board of trustees looks at it. And that's what sucks, because you don't want to go through all, because the way we do it here is basically the committee nominates 3 people and the person going up nominates 3 people. And then the committee ranks the person's 3 people and the person ranks the committee's 3 people. And then you have to go through them. Whoever is the external review coordinator
Okay.
has to go through and email them and say, hey, we need an external reviewer. Are you willing to do this? And then they say yes or no. And then you move down the list.
Okay.
And you have to have 2 whenever you go up. And I was the external review coordinator last year, and that is how I learned that there are a lot of people with full faculty status who do not answer their email. That, not happy. That was not a good thing. But it also tells you like who has faculty status but not tenure. So these are the people with professional status.
Okay.
Because I'm gonna guess if you have to have external reviewers, they may be cool if you have people with professional status or with tenure. But for me, if they have professional status or faculty status but not tenure, have continuing appointment, I can't use them.
Okay.
And that's annoying as hell, because we're gonna find out when I go up for tenure, what do you do when you're one of the early people in the field? And so I don't know of anybody who has full faculty, who's a full professor who does this job. So what do I do then? Because I through ACTAL and through various other things, I've started to make friends and I know people, but I also know that like I can't ask Eric Johnson at VCU because he doesn't have tenure, he has permanent status.
Yeah.
And so he's one of the best people to judge me, but I can't ask
him to do it.
But so this is just kind of a handy list of, depending on what your handbook says, here's a place to start looking for those people rather than trying to figure out whether or not that institution is in the right category.
Okay.
So, because everything really comes down to check your bylaws.
Yeah. I mean, Delaware's not even on there, so it's, in my case, it's fine.
Yeah, and like this isn't from the ALA or anything, it's just a blog that somebody
WordPress.
keeps up. So
Yeah.
you know, you have to double check everything, but it
Yeah,
might
I already
be,
found a 404, so
yeah. But you know, it's always good to have a place to start.
yes.
And they do change. So like I feel like I can't remember because I know that like University of Utah has full faculty status, but I think that they are not here. Or they weren't when I was last looking at it. Yeah. Oh no, they're there now, but they weren't a year ago. And I only know that they have full faculty status because my sister works there.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's a good time. You're gonna be fine, and you don't have to like it. So
I just think you get it.
yeah, and that's the thing is it's
Everyone's told me I should be fine. It was just not knowing the process.
But it's really hard to hear that when you're in the middle of the process, especially if it's something that takes a while before you hear the verdict.
I still haven't heard it.
Yeah, well, it's always on a particular clock, right?
Right, and so the letters of recommendation had to be due earlier this, like 2 days ago, and so I don't hear anything, I think, back until January.
Yeah.
Then I don't actually like officially hear anything until like March or April for like the official.
Yeah, so our stuff, and they're changing the calendar, so I don't know what it's going to be next year, but like our stuff was all due in October, and then and they only give you like 2 weeks notice, so it's really up to you to be like in July saying I should start this because I know it's gonna, because they only tell you like 2 weeks ahead of time.
Okay.
And then you hear like things that you're missing a week later, so you can go back and fix that stuff, and then you stuff goes to the external reviewers, I think November 1st, and then external reviewers have to have it back by the beginning of January, and then the committee will let you know like mid-February if you've passed the committee.
Okay.
And then like a month later, you'll find out whether or not you got past the department head. And then like 2 months later, you'll find out whether or not you got past the provost. And then you find out the chance. You don't actually hear until freaking July.
Yeah, that's probably
So,
actually equivalent.
Yeah. And it's and your new status takes effect in August.
Okay.
But July is where you get the final board of trustees stamp. And it's
so you kind of run academic year.
I'm not real sure what we're doing.
Because we kind of run fiscal. Oh, everything's due like September 7th, which was like, I think is the worst date because I'm like, it's right before school start. Or no, it's like the week of the first week of school. I'm like, you have so much going on that week to begin with that you don't need that extra added pressure.
Yeah. No, it's all terrible. The other thing
not that there's ever a good
about,
time, but yeah.
No, but I think we're trying to get it to the point where we're running calendar year, which means that stuff will probably be due in the summer, which will be a little bit better. The other thing that I wanted to talk about, since we've got about 13 minutes left, was thoughts on getting published and accepted, particularly in this weird field.
That's actually probably the reason why I came here is because I don't know.
So we now have ACTAL, so this is a place to get presentations. So and service, which is helpful. But I will tell you that so getting published can be really difficult if you're starting to go through like ACRL, because ACRL, in my opinion, is super calcified with types of instruction. And so when you try and, I think they might be getting better. I haven't been a member for a couple of years. They finally drove me out. But I had luck with ACRL with posters rather than presentations. So but you have to remember to like make some stuff about the framework. Like, so that's my suggestion. Like, and it doesn't apply. It's irrelevant. I don't like it anyway. I work at the library that's just like framework, whatever. But you have to make some stuff up. So I think in 2017, that OT professor and I had a poster at ACRL, and we put like this whole little thing together about how making videos in occupational therapy applied to the framework. And I had most people walked by and went, "Oh, that's nice how you did that." And one person came up and she just kind of looked at it, and she looked at me, and she looked at it, and then she looked back at me and said, "You made that up." And I said, "Uh-huh." And she went, "Okay." Because I did. I made it up. Framework doesn't apply to what we do. But if you can make some stuff up about the framework to get a poster into ACRL, because it's just part of the graphic. So like nobody's going to read it that carefully. The other thing that I've had good success with is publish with people from other disciplines. So like I did an article with a chemistry professor because we had a student that was their centrifuge, like they got a centrifuge that uses big tubes, but the little tubes were easier to buy, and they've been using like insulation tubing foam to hold them still because it does have to, they can't rattle. Otherwise there's no point in the centrifuge. So she designed tube holders using our 3D printers and SketchUp. And so Gretchen and I wrote an article which we included the student as a co-author because we kind of supervised the project, the student did the work, and so we wrote the stuff and the student got the credit. But so that was a peer-reviewed Journal of Chemistry Education something article that I got. It's not in libraries, but publishing
still published.
It's still published and it's still peer-reviewed. So depending again, what do your bylaws say? But you're still getting published and you're not having to fight the how are you a librarian part of it. So but like that OT professor and I had a presentation accepted to an OT conference before she quit, and I'm like, I'm not going to an OT conference without you. I'm just not. But like we tried to get accepted to a social work conference. I can't remember why we didn't. It was just a big year, I guess. But sometimes the stuff that we're doing with classes is really innovative for that particular discipline. So writing about it in an education of chemistry, education of biology, putting it into that context can get you that thing. Okay. There's also a online publication called the Journal of Creative Librarianship, which is peer reviewed. They don't publish a lot. They kind of publish when they have something. But I did a whole study, like working with a psychology professor. So it was actually correctly designed. And I turned it into CRNL or the ACRL journal, whatever it is. And I literally had one of my reviewers come back and the question was, what does this have to do with librarianship? And the answer was nothing. It was like, thanks. So I published it. So I sent it to the Journal of Creative Librarianship and they were like, this is great. Thank you. We need you to fix these things and send it back. Okay. Because it was about how teaching presentation skills and how it improves a life skill rather than just having the professor say, do it this way. Because if the professor says it, then you're just like, oh, this is for class.
You're only doing it for your professor instead of actually understanding.
Yeah. And so bringing in the guest lecturer helps. Also, I'm really a big fan of the magazine, Computers in Libraries. And so that becomes, it's a trade journal rather than a peer-reviewed publication, but depending on your bylaws. I find that, and the nice thing about Computers in Libraries is it's mostly geared towards school and public librarians. And so in academia, we tend to have more money and a little bit more freedom. Because we have more money, we have a little bit more freedom to do weird things.
Yeah.
But we can kind of figure out the logistics, and then you write in Computers in Libraries and you're presenting it to people who need to have the kinks worked out before they can convince people to do it. And they also pay $250 an article. But they have themed issues every year.
Okay.
So like every month has a specific theme, and you go and you look at the themes, and a couple months beforehand, you send them a quick email and says, hey, I think I've got an article for this particular issue. And they will write you back and either say, yes, or they'll say, I've never had them say no, but they have said, actually, so we think that would be better in our catch-all issue, or the following year we're going to because it'll go like September through August. So it's like, okay, so that I see why you want to do that for February, but we think it'll be better for next year's September issue, which is going to be this. And trade journals usually have they're a step down from peer-reviewed in academia thought, but it's still a publication. Yeah. And I've had really good luck with them. They are really nice. And a lot of the stuff that we're doing is right up their alley. And so the 3 articles I've had published, one was I had an iPod circulation program at my last job. And then we were really early at my last job to 3D printing. So I had one of the earlier articles on like what it's like to have a 3D printer in an academic library.
Yeah.
And then the other one was we do these like Pathfinder help sheets for programs. And so we wrote an article about the Pathfinders.
Okay.
And you know, and the best part is they send you copies of the physical magazine. So like I gave one to my mom, but for the 3D printing one, I actually had a student, I took a picture of a student with one of his designs. And so it's a picture of him holding up this ball he designed. And I was able to give him that magazine. So I could say, you know, if anybody says that asks you if you've ever been a cover model, here's your proof that you've been on the cover of a magazine. Because they send you like 6 copies. So yeah, they're lovely. So that would be places to think about, but you have to get a little bit
creative
out of the box. Yeah. I also say the other thing to emphasize is book chapters, because there's calls for book chapters all of the time. And so UTC is weird because like we score things, like a peer-reviewed article is a 3 and a trade journal is a 2 and a blog post is a 1, which some people love it, some people hate it. I don't have time to have an opinion. It's what we do. But like a book chapter and a peer-reviewed article are both a 3. So they're usually viewed, because they're refereed, because somebody looked at it and decided to accept it or not, they get bumped up above trade journals. But there's a lot of books coming out that are like, hey, tell us your innovative idea that you did in your makerspace. And so those book chapters are great places to kind of
start
get a publication in there.
The Computer in Libraries looks like it's from the 90s.
I know.
I'm like, is this a white? Yeah, but I'm like, is this the right website? And then I'm like, yeah,
it's blue and white. Yes, that's exactly it. Yeah. And it's like the magazine itself. Let me see if I've got one in my drawer. Yeah. But like, this is what it ends up looking like.
Yeah.
Sorry, I keep dropping my sweaters on the floor today. That's my plan.
No, you're good.
So there we go. And then you just scan it for a PDF. But like they do the graphic design. You'll send them pictures and they'll put them in there. And yeah, so this is our article.
Cool.
And it looks like a magazine article because it is one. But like, yeah, it looks great and it looks really snazzy. And again, we got paid like $250, not each. We had to split it. But you know, if you can make a little bit of extra money, why not?
Yeah.
So
cool.
All right. But also feel free to reach out to me. Like a lot of times it's with your bylaws. It always comes back to bylaws and that 45-page annoying document. But sometimes it's just helpful to have a buddy. And hopefully ACTAL will help you find more buddies that are at the same place where you are. And this is what I was kind of hoping that like the informal groups would help do for people. Like, I don't know if yours is still meeting. I haven't been paying attention.
I think,
but
I think I might have missed the last one, but I also haven't heard anything. I think we're trying to do like quarterly last I heard, but I had like a doctor's appointment that day, so I couldn't go.
Yeah, but those are also great people to be like, this is the thing that I'm doing. What do you think?
Yeah.
And maybe they'll have ideas for publishing as well. Yeah, because publishing is way easier with friends.
Yeah.
So well, thank you for coming. I'm sorry that you can't come to the thing. You know how I know exactly how short staff works.
Yeah.
And if I weren't one of the founders, I don't know if I would be making it, but also I've overcommitted myself to presentations. So here we go. But yeah, you're gonna be fine.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll be fine. It's just now just looking forward for the next one.
Yeah.
Yep.
But anyway, have a good day and I will see you around.
See ya.
You got this. But thank you for coming.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.